So this is our February 2021 COVID-19 update for everybody at Amity, faculty and students. So what's the big picture? For the first time in quite a while, the news is kind of going in the right direction. And COVID infections are dropping. They're still quite high, but they have dropped considerably, and death rates are also decreasing. Vaccinations are ramping up, 1.5 million a day, with an anticipation that might go up to 2 million or even 3 million a day. There are now 3 effective vaccines. Johnson & Johnson just put out a vaccine which has been approved, which is a one-shot, not requiring the kinds of refrigeration the other ones have. So this means that much wider distribution and more manufacturing. This is all good news. And it is possible that by sometime in the summer we could have most of the adults in the United States vaccinated. Fingers crossed. But we have to also put in this little news broadcast that we did hit a terrible milestone. 500,000, 500,000 people dead in the United States from this virus, and probably another 100 or 200,000 before we really kind of get the genie back in the bottle. So here's a cartoon. Look, light at the end of another tunnel. So this is going from 2000 to 2021. I think we all hope by sometime in 2020 this thing would be we'd be in much better shape than we are, but at least we're heading in the right direction. So at Amity, most of our faculty will have had both their shots and be through the waiting period by the end of March, and maybe sooner, because I know a lot of people have, like me, as of tomorrow, I've had my second shot, and my 2-week waiting period ends, which means that I have 95% protection from the disease. And we're going to talk a little bit about the virus versus the disease in a minute. So most of our students may have completed their series of vaccinations by the end of April or sooner, depending on how things go. So we will contain, quarantine, test, and vaccinate everybody who enters our community. So students, or if we're hiring a new faculty, we're going to make sure that they're safe before we insert them into our community. So we're going to maintain a safe bubble to the extent that we can, and regarding we'll continue to do our safeguarding for guests and visitors. So we got to continue the safeguarding procedures until we absolutely know we're kind of out of the woods on this situation. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go along. Speaking of quarantine, here's a cartoon. Hello, hello. I'm just wondering if I have put in the wrong quarantine here. And he's obviously been put in with the a pet adoption quarantine situation. It happens. So you've had your shots, okay? Now this is something that's really important for everybody to really get. Vaccines present death and serious health complications, okay? And all 3 now available are pretty effective in preventing the disease of COVID-19. But they were never designed to prevent infection. That sounds a little contradictory, but we don't know how effective these vaccines are in preventing infection of the virus, which is called SARS-CoV-2. If you get a vaccine that actually not only prevents you from having the disease, but also prevents you from being infected, that is called sterilizing immunity. These vaccines do not have that property, or if they do, we don't know it yet. There hasn't been enough testing to know whether we have sterilizing immunity, which means that we not only are 95% protected from getting the disease of COVID-19, but we are also prevented from having the virus and being asymptomatic, right? So you can't have the disease unless you have the virus. But you can have the virus without having the disease. That's what all these asymptomatic people have. They have the virus, but they don't have the disease. So this means after you've been vaccinated and you've waited the week or 2 weeks, it's not yet known whether you can still be infected and be contagious. That's why we have to maintain the precautions that we have been observing for the last months, almost a year now. So just think about that. You can be vaccinated, and it's unlikely that you're going to get the disease. And if you do have it, it's going to be very, very mild. Okay, but it does not mean we don't know yet. You may still be infectious to other people. So this is a cartoon. I love this one. This is a whole bunch of people on a planet, maybe Mars, because we've just landed the rover on Mars, and they're like, vaccines aren't safe, masks don't work, and the little Perseverance rover is saying, still searching for intelligent life. And we got to be that intelligent life in terms of this thing. So there's some other things we don't know. Okay, we don't know how long your immunity lasts if you've had COVID. Okay, and a lot of people have. We don't know how long the immunity lasts because we haven't had the disease that long, so we don't really know. Last thing I read was they know that it seems to be your immunity seems to last for 7 or 8 months, but it may last longer, and once we get a lot more numbers, we'll be able to kind of parse that out. But it's something to keep in mind that just the fact you've had COVID does not mean that you are safe for the rest of your life. In fact, we've read of situations where people have been infected twice, have had the disease twice. How long does my immunity last after my vaccination? Don't know that either, okay? Because again, we're just vaccinating people now. In the clinical trials, it looked at least several months later, they still had good immunity, but we don't know. So that's something, again, we'll have to find out as we go along. How effective is my vaccination against all these new variants that are coming up? This African one, the British one, now there's a California variety. There's hundreds of these variations. Some of them look like they're more contagious. So far, it doesn't look like any of them are more deadly. And so far, it looks like, except the AstraZeneca one, which we're not using, doesn't look like it was effective against the South African variant. But we shouldn't be, lying in bed at night with our eyes on the ceiling over that, because we are not using the AstraZeneca. But it does raise those questions, which is, as these variants appear, how is our vaccination going to work? And the answer to that is we just don't know yet. And there's this question which is now coming up in scientific circles is, will the coronavirus, will it ever go away? Or will it be kind of like the flu, where every year there's new variants and you have to get a flu shot every year to be protected? And that's quite possible, that there will be booster shots or annual shots to prevent against this thing. And Many scientists are saying the idea that COVID is simply going to go away, forget it. It's going to be, the coronavirus is here with us, and we're just going to have to, like we have had with other infections, we're going to have to deal with it. But it will, like we deal with the flu every year. We lose quite a few thousand people to the flu every year. We accept the flu. We do the best we can. We get shots and so forth and so on. But it is something. Influenza is kind of with us for the duration. It's quite likely that the coronavirus, in some form or another, may take that pathway where we don't completely eradicate it. This is a great cartoon. It shows COVID-19 on the mat with the vaccine giving them a headlock, and then the variants reaching out to say, I'll help you up. So again, we're kind of hoping these variants are susceptible to the same vaccines we've taken or to a booster shot that they develop. We've talked about the bubble before. The bubble is that safe space in your household with your partner, your children, or your roommate, if you've got a roommate, whatever home configuration you have, where you feel safe. You don't have to wear a mask. Everybody is being safe and protecting the bubble when they come in, taking a shower, making sure that you don't carry the virus in with you. Frequent tests, of course now vaccinations. So you feel in the bubble. You feel really at home, and this is really normal. The larger bubble at AMI is our campuses, and that's a bubble too. Of course, it has a lot more in and out than your home bubble, and it is harder to protect. There's many more chances for the virus kind of getting loose in a congregate living situation like we have. So we've got to continue to think about protecting the bubble, at home and at work. But let's look down the road a little bit. Once all the faculty and all the students have been vaccinated and have gone through the waiting period, then we can begin to talk about reducing some of our safeguarding procedures. Okay? We're not there yet. Okay? Don't act on this. But it's not that far away, because once we've got all the faculty vaccinated and we've got all the students vaccinated, and all new faculty, new students, guests, and visitors have got to go through the safety protocols to make sure they don't infect the bubble, then we can start considering, times when we don't have to wear masks, okay, within the bubble. Again, we're not there yet, but we're much closer than we have been for many, many months. This is a cartoon. I'm sure you've all been through this. Somebody at a counter, the clerk is behind this big plexiglass screen, has a mask on, and is talking incoherently because you can't hear. And the guy is saying, if only the screen had closed captioning so I could understand what you're saying. Well, all of us, I'm sure, are ready to pitch the mask, but not yet. Hold on to it, and we'll suffer through these last few months of doing this. I'm going to read you something. This is Crystal Watson, who's a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Quote, "We're not anywhere near to a place where we can control the spread of the virus. So it's unfortunately not the best time to relax our guard on the personal mitigation measures we've been taking, like distancing, masking, and just trying to avoid crowds. So this advice really applies to everyone, including those who've been vaccinated and those who have recovered from COVID. We can see a future not too many months away when something approximating normalcy will return. We got to just be patient and stay with it so we can all get there together. Another quote I'm going to read you. This is Saskia Popescu. She's an infectious disease epidemiologist and infection preventionist at George Mason University. And she's talking about traveling, and this is something, particularly, for faculty, but to some extent for students as well. As we get more people vaccinated, as the infection rate drops, the first thing people think about, including me, is like, oh, good, I can travel again, and maybe not to a foreign country, but I could go and see my daughter in Connecticut, or whatever. So what Saskia says, I'm fully vaccinated, and I still take every precaution with my traveling. The thing is, even as we learn more about vaccines and asymptomatic infection, it's also that it's 95% effective. So there's still a 5% chance of getting a potentially deadly disease. 5% is 5%, She also says she believes very strongly that continuing to wear a mask is not only about protecting herself and others, but also about encouraging others to continue wearing theirs. Okay? Quote, it's really important to be a good role model, a good steward, she said, because if strangers see you not wearing your mask, they don't know that you've been vaccinated, and they may say, well, hey, thank God more people are not wearing masks. That means I can not wear a mask, okay? And I think we want to, just for our own sake and for the sake of others, keep the safety protocols in place until it's really clear that we can drop them. And we have public health officials who are going to tell us when it's safe. So what are the basics? It's the same stuff we've talked about over and over. Social distancing, hand washing, wearing a K95 or an N95 mask, fitted snugly. If you're having problems with the fitting of these things, there's all kinds of things you can do. You can tighten the things around your ears. You can wear the nose guard. Of course, the N95 comes with a nose piece to clamp around your nose. If you really are struggling with it, that doesn't work. Yeah, a double mask to help the fit. You don't need a double mask with a KN95 or an N95 mask. They are filtering out almost all the particles. But sometimes a double mask will help in terms of getting a snugger fit, and that's a reason to double mask. Obviously, if you don't have a KN95 or an N95 mask, then double masking is really required. So, of course, avoid gatherings, particularly indoor gatherings. And again, as we have entire campuses that are vaccinated, faculty and students, we can begin to change some of these protocols, but we're not quite there yet. Remember that the greatest threat is faculty, students, or guests going in and out of the bubble. Have they been safe outside the bubble? Okay? Could they bring it in, the virus into the bubble? In which case, particularly before everybody's vaccinated, we got a problem. And remember, 95% protection means 5% there's still a chance for serious disease and death. So now let's ask some questions. I'm sure you've all got questions. Some of you maybe have been watching some of these town halls that are on TV, which is great, because people ask all kinds of questions. So, things like this. Can two vaccinated people get together safely? Can a large group of people who've been vaccinated or who have had COVID but have recovered can be in a room together safely without masks? How about family visits? How about work for students? So let's just take a couple of examples. Visiting another household. Let's say I wanted to go and visit my neighbors who are, 100 yards away from my house. Well, what are the things I would do? I would say, okay, I'm vaccinated. Okay, cool. I've had a recent COVID test, so I'm vaccinated and I'm negative for the virus. Then I would ask them, hey, have you guys been tested and vaccinated? Okay? If they have been vaccinated and tested fairly recently, then I'm pretty safe going over and having a pizza with them, okay? All right? But suppose there's 3 people in that household and 2 of them have been vaccinated and 1 of them hasn't. Okay, now we got a different ball game, don't we? Okay? So now we have to do kind of what we've done with family visits at Amity, which is a socially distant visit, okay, with masks, okay? So, but if everybody's been vaccinated and everybody's been tested, yeah, you can get together in that way. But be careful because you have to really make sure that those protocols have been followed. Don't just, now the good thing probably for people who are younger and they have older parents that they've wanted to see, the good news is probably most of these older parents are in that first group to be vaccinated, depending on their age. So there's a real good chance that older parents will have been vaccinated, which is good in terms of being able to visit. Here's another cartoon, trying to keep it light this time. Here we have 2 aliens in their spacecraft and one guy with them saying, guys, abducting me could not have come at a better time with the pandemic and all. It's good to get out of the house. Where are we going? Okay. And everybody, I think, as we begin to approach a more certain situation in terms of COVID diminishing, are anxious to get out of the house, do things. But be careful. Traveling. Where are you going? Why are you going? And who are you going with? And who are you going to see? Some of this traveling is you're just going to work, okay? pretty mundane. But some of you may want to go and take a vacation finally, and there's lots of places to go that are safe. For you, with your household, the people in your bubble, to go someplace that's not crowded, out in nature with fresh air, hopefully sunshine. Wow, what a good idea, and all of us kind of I'm sure have a certain amount of cabin fever from just being confined to our house and our workplace forever and ever and ever, it seems like. So, safer to do short trips by car. Special precautions for air travel. A few months ago, Nye and I had to travel by plane for business, and we wore an N95 mask and a face shield, and we're really cautious lots of hand sanitizer, and we were okay. But I wasn't happy about it. It wasn't like something I would want to be doing on a frequent basis. Airplanes are pretty good. They've all installed HEPA filters, but some of them are packing these planes like cattle cars, and it's not as safe as you traveling in your car with your members of your household. And then when you stop to get gas, hand sanitizer, wear your mask. If you're eating along the way, try and eat outdoors, rather than inside, because we know inside is much more dangerous. There's much more virus there, and as far as I've been able to tell, no one's been able to eat a full meal with a mask on. So you're going to have to be unprotected for part of that. Why take the risk? So don't go to a crowded beach or someplace where there's lots and lots of crowds. If you want to go to the beach, there's times to go. There's beaches that are not crowded, and there are times when beaches, even crowded beaches, are not crowded. Or to parks or things like that. But don't go to an indoor venue. It's really not safe. Can students work safely? Well, if they've been vaccinated, okay, or they've recovered from COVID completely, they go to a safe workplace that follows CDC protocols. And when they return, before they enter the campus, they shower, clean their clothes, work clothes go into the laundry, and they do weekly testing, yes. If we meet those criteria, yeah, it's fine. And these students I've been chomping at the bit, particularly over in California, where part of our mission is to get them out working before they leave us with a good job and safe housing. So when will it end? And I'm quoting, I have a picture here of Dr. Fauci, and I'll quote from him because he knows more than just about anybody else. Let's say we get 75%, 80% of the population vaccinated, Fauci said. If we do that, if we do it efficiently over the second quarter of 2021, by the time we get to the end of the summer, we may actually have enough herd immunity protecting our society that as we get to the end of 2021, we can approach very much some degree of normality that is close to where we were before. So, watch this space, as they say. We'll have further updates on the progress of the virus, trying to make sure you get accurate information so that you can kind of judge, do your activities safely, both your work responsibilities and your family responsibilities. I know it's been tough for me this year. Typically, I get together with my daughters and grandchildren for Christmas. That certainly didn't happen last year, or Thanksgiving, or so forth and so on. We don't know whether summer will be appropriate or not. We're not making any plans. I guess what we're really hoping for is Christmas next year. We'll be able to kind of resume that, and that may be the timeline that we're talking about. So we know more than we did the last time we made a video for you. We don't know. There's a lot of things we still don't know. And that's why we'll continue these updates as new information comes out. We'll give you those updates. You may want to go back to the last video that we did, which has a lot of instructions on mask wearing, which is still critically important. Not only that you wear a mask, but it's the right kind of mask, that you know how to disinfect it, you don't wear it for more than one day, and that it has a very, very snug fit so that you're not blowing air out of the bottoms or the sides or whatever. So I hope this has been helpful, and stay safe, be safe, protect your family, your coworkers, our students, you know, and our society.